What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here. We're going to be doing the full review of the Benchmade 710. This is a knife that I will go ahead and link my initial impressions video on this knife. But I've had it for a couple of weeks now. It is on loan from my friend Sharp Marbles, aka Doug. He let me borrow this and a couple of others, and I've spent some time with this one, and I actually wanted to do a formal review on it. There's some things I like, there's some things I don't like, there's some things that I disagree with, there's some things that I think maybe are blown out of proportion. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it here. So what we've got here is an aluminum scale S90V blade. Right there, McHenry Williams design. And this is, they released these, and the one that came out right before this as the 25th anniversary of Benchmade's introduction of the axis lock mechanism. Now, the axis lock mechanism is completely, over the last 2.5 decades has completely just exploded. And, Benchmade had the patent on it at first. The patent has since expired, so there's lots of other knives utilizing that same type of technology, and we'll touch on that a little bit too. But yeah, so aluminum scales, S90V blade, kind of a raw aluminum look right there. Flow-through construction, steel liners, skeletonized steel liners, more on that later. Thumb stub operation with the traditional axis lock release right there. So yeah, let's go into some dimensions right here. We are looking at a 4-inch blade. So you got one, let's see, right there, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches with about 3.6 inches of cutting edge, something like that, maybe a little bit more, 3.75 inches of cutting edge. Yeah, I think that's probably accurate, 3.75 inches of cutting edge. We'll do some size comparisons with it. Let me see, let me grab some knives. I thought I had a few out, but I don't. So we'll grab some other knives for comparison. What do I usually grab? Yeah, we'll go ahead and get it started with the Ontario Rat 1 and the Benchmade Native 5, right, or Benchmade Spyderco Native 5 rather. Got Benchmade on the brain right there, so that's what you're looking at right there. We'll go ahead and take a look at the Buck 110 right there. Similar size as the Buck 110. What else we got? How about an Olamic Cutlery 247? See if I can get these knives all centered up. Get them in the frame here. Olamic 247 right there. And let's see. Strider SMF. So yeah, you can kind of get the idea that this knife is on the larger side. Here's another Benchmade. That is a Crooked River. Crooked River? I believe it's Crooked River. Yeah, that's what it is. This one's modified. It's getting a bit of a buoy modification. The recurve's kind of been taken out of it. But yeah, that's the Crooked River right there. And let's see, what else we got? How about a Hinderer XM18? Kind of get the sense of that right there. And anything else? Let's see, what do we got right here? Well, how about an Emerson right there? There's an Emerson Apache. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking at from a dimension standpoint, a size standpoint right there. Now, I was very initially critical of this knife when it first came out, and a lot of it was what you were getting for the price that you were paying. So I guess we can touch on that real quick. Bottom line, with this model right here, I don't think it's really all that overpriced. Okay, you're looking at a MSRP of, or a MAP price of $405. It can be found in a couple of places less. I don't know if you want to mention that in the comments, but because I don't know what the policy is, but there are a couple of places out there where you can get this for a little bit less than MAP if you want to do a little hunting. But yeah, you're looking at about $405 for this knife right here. Now, its predecessor that just came out before this was almost the exact same thing, only the scales were black. So they had a Cerakote or PVD or something like that, DLC, something like that, black scales. and it was a Magna Cut blade, and that one was $610. Now, I will stick to my guns when I say that one is grossly, wildly, and insanely overpriced. This one, I think that you're looking at a little bit too much money, but I don't think it's really out of the craziness. You know, it's out of the realm and completely unreasonable. Now, the Benchmade, the butterfly tax has always kind of been a thing. We know that. They always put a premium on their knives. They're just proud of what they do. You know, and it is a USA made company and everything else, but more than pretty much any other domestic maker, you tend to have you have a history or a tendency to get higher prices on Benchmades. You just pay a little bit of a premium on that for just, that's how it is. Now you can agree with that, you can disagree with that, but I think what you're getting right here, I don't think that we're looking at something that's obscenely overpriced for what you're actually getting, because you are getting that beautiful recurved S90V blade, those nicely milled aluminum handles, a redesigned axis lock. Now, as far as the axis lock goes, I don't know if I feel a difference, but I don't have a ton of experience, believe it or not, with axis lock operation, you know, traditional axis lock. My only other axis lock is this Grizzly River, and it's a very different knife, so it's kind of hard to compare the two. But yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be, you know, a redesign, different configuration, stronger springs, because that's always historically been one of the Achilles heel of Benchmade axis locks, is those Omega springs breaking off and snapping and everything else. But apparently there's been a redesign. There are videos out there where they do breakdowns on this. I am not going to take this knife apart. It is not mine. Don't want to deal with it. So I'm just going to leave it as is, and you can do your own research as far as finding out, you know, the differences between the two locks. The axis lock release button right there is very nice. As you can see, it's got an angled milling on that, which makes it really nice to just grab. I like how they do that, you know, as opposed to this flat button that you get, you know, at least on this model right here. So I really like that too. And I also like how the scales are, you know, these scales are really nicely milled. You know, no complaints whatsoever. I mean, this knife feels very nice in the hand. It performs well. That recurve is really great. I love the blade shape. I know recurves have kind of fallen out of favor over the past several years because people don't want to sharpen them for the most part, but it's really not that hard. You know, there's plenty of YouTube, you know, tutorial videos on sharpening recurves. It's really not that hard. Don't let, you know, the challenge or something different in the sharpening process keep you away from getting a recurve. Now, one thing I would say, if this was my knife, I would go ahead and sharpen it right away because the edge on it is okay, not great. And it's a little unevenly finished, that secondary bevel, but not terrible. And I'm not just gonna hang Benchmade out to dry because I see that with a lot of different companies, not just Benchmade. So I'm not gonna really harp on that too much here. Centering is always an issue, it seems, with Benchmade. They get a lot of hate for that. This one is very nicely centered. Is it favoring one side a little bit? Maybe it's just favoring. No, I don't think it is. I think it's pretty much dead nut center. No complaints on that. The action is really good. It's running on phosphor bronze washers. I mean, this is a nice action. You can finger flick it out. I don't find that middle finger flicking it, for me, is all that great. Your mileage may vary because, you know, in typical axis lock fashion, it doesn't really have a detent to speak of. It's more just the resistance of the spring and that, you know, the lock bar or the bar itself kind of nestling within the blade. So that's going to be something that is indicative, symptomatic, whatever type of word you want to use, of this style of lock. And so it, for me at least, it doesn't lend itself to the middle finger flick quite as well as just doing a thumb flick. I think that's the best way for me at least to do it. Of course, you can also slow roll it out. And if you want, you can also just release the axis bar and just do that. Maybe. You know, not the smoothest when I'm doing it, especially on camera. I tend to just thumb flick it out. I think that's the easiest way to do it. You know, so overall, I honestly think this is a pretty darn good knife. Now, some things that I don't like about it. I already kind of touched on the price, and here's one of the things in that vein that I think for the price, they should be doing a better job of. So right here, you have that pocket clip, I really don't see a reason other than apathy why that couldn't be, in laziness, why that couldn't be milled out and nicely nestled into that scale right there. I think it would have been easy enough to do instead of just having it be bolt on. Right here, Microtech is doing that in the same price point. Now, Microtech, they do have big old screws right there, so that kind of brings itself another issue, but that's a hardware choice. But they are taking the time to go ahead and mill out that, these are original goat scales, so that's not the best example. Here, let me grab this one. This is the Microtech Amphibian, one of my favorite knives that I've picked up this year. But yeah, they go ahead and they mill that out, and then they give you a spacer on that side right here. Not something they're doing on this, it's just bolt on. Not a huge fan of that. The other thing that I really don't understand, I mean, this was really an opportunity for Benchmade to kind of break out of what they normally do, which is just, the scale, liner, construction. It was really an opportunity for them with this redesign to do a nestled liner feature where they're just they're milling out the aluminum scales and just putting the housing in there and then going ahead and just completing the look that way. I think it would have been a lot nicer than using those skeletonized liners like they typically do on most of their knives. I think this is just a really big missed opportunity that they really could have showed the community something, that they were doing something different. I mean, they've obviously got the technology. They could definitely do it. And I think for the price point, they should be doing something like that. Because as we see here, this is the Microtech Amphibian. They are doing just that. They're milling out housing for their ram lock, which is similar to the axis lock. It's a different operation, but it's very similar in the way it functions. And they're nesting those liners right there. And I really think that this is a missed opportunity with Benchmade. I think they could have done that. And I think they really would have impressed some people had they done that. Especially when you factor in the fact that this knife from Microtech is $100 less. This is a $300 knife. This is a $400 knife. And I think you're getting a lot more for your money from a fit and finish standpoint with the Microtech than you are with the Benchmade. I just think Benchmade really could have taken the time, done something different, fired up the CAD, fired up the 5-axis mill or whatever it is they use, I'm not a machinist, and done something better for the 25th anniversary other than just doing the same thing that they've done for decades, which is just the scale, liner, scale, construction. I just think it's a missed opportunity. I think they really could have done better. This is more nitpicky. I think this is actually these liners. I think this is I think it's laziness. I think it's apathy. I think it's resting on their laurels. They're going to sell a lot of knives. They know they're going to sell a lot of knives. And, they're probably one of the biggest knife makers in America. Not probably, they are. They're one of the biggest factories in America. And so I just think they really could have done better, especially when you consider that Microtech, that is definitely a competitor. Maybe they don't have the market share that Benchmade has, but they've got a decent sized market share. There's a lot of similarities between these two knives. They're both 4-inch blades. They both have recurves. They're both aluminum construction, aluminum handle construction. They both have the same type of locking mechanism. They both are ambidextrous carry. Yeah, this is S90V. This is M390MK. I mean, I think S90V is from a heat treating standpoint. I think it's a little more forgiving in the sense that, the carbide volume will allow for a little bit of a softer heat treat, and you'll be able to get away with that more than you can with MagnaCut or M390. But I think for your money, I think Microtech is just doing better things than Benchmade is. And I know that some people may say this is an apples to apples comparison, but I disagree. I think these two knives have a lot in common, both from a manufacturing standpoint, from a company story standpoint, from just overall features that they offer the end user. And I think Microtech is offering it to the end user at a better price than Benchmade is. Now, all that being said, I still think this is a good knife. I would like to see it a little bit better priced. I think it's a much better buy at $350. I think if they came out with an MSRP is $350 on this, I think it would be a buy without even a second's hesitation. I think it's worth it. I still think it's a little overpriced compared when you think about the fact that you can get, the Microtech Amphibian for, for 300 even, varies a little bit based on, configurations, serrations, coatings, things of that nature. But, the base is going to be about 300 even. And this is, you're looking at 400 on this. Now, will they come out with an S35 or an S45 VN or something like that version? Maybe with G10 scales, and that's going to be even less. That is certainly a possibility. I don't know for sure. But as it stands right now, this one, I really don't think it's that crazy of a price. I think it is a little overpriced, but I think you get a lot for your money, and I think it is a good knife. This is a knife that you can certainly be proud to own and happy to use. The MagnaCut version, I think, is insanely overpriced. I wouldn't touch that with your money, but whatever floats your boat. It's a free country. You can do what you want. I honestly don't think this one is a bad value for what you get. I think it's a little overpriced, but like I say, I think I'm kind of beating a dead horse on that one right there. If I were going to choose the two, I'd take the Microtech all day long, simply because I think it's a much stronger value. But this isn't a comparison video. This is a Benchmade 710 review, and honestly, I think it's pretty darn good, a little overpriced, but at the end of the day, I think you are getting a really good knife for your money. And if you like it, you like the design, you're a Benchmade fan, you like what you see when you look at this knife, I don't think you'll be disappointed in getting it. So, all that being said, kind of a long video, but go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know what you think of the 710. Did you pick one up? You considering about picking one up? Would you pick one up based on this review? Or would you say no thank you based on this review? In any case, that's going to do it for me, y'all. Give me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. Turn on the alerts. Consider subscribing to the channel. There's a little button right there. Certainly would appreciate that. And stay tuned for the next one. Peace.